Greyfriars Kirkyard, the ancient cemetery in the heart of Edinburgh. It has a share of bloody history and a famous poltergeist. Keep watching to find out more.
The kirkyard inspired some of J.K. Rowling's characters and helped her to write the famous stories. Greyfriars Kirkyard is famous for Greyfriars Bobby, Edinburgh's beloved dog. The dog guarded his master's grave and famously slept there for many years until he died. He was buried just inside the gate of Greyfriars Kirkyard near John Gray's grave. It was rife with grave robbers who would sell the bodies to doctors for dissection. Grave robbers were known as resurrection men. Ever heard of Burke and Hare? They were famous grave robbers from Edinburgh, and it's likely they visited this very cemetery. Edinburgh is the capital city of Scotland. Edinburgh has been the capital of Scotland for hundreds of years. Edinburgh has existed since around the 12th century. As Edinburgh has existed for such a long time, it has lots of ghost stories and a bloody history. So long, we have written books about it. The Knights Templar even had a head office in Edinburgh at one point. This was after being thrown out of many countries. The property still exists today. In 1309, two Knights Templar were on trial in Edinburgh. They were accused of adorning their temple with a horned head. Luckily for them, they were not burned at the stake, but they were dispossessed of their lands. Edinburgh Castle has a history of over 900 years. The history has included torture, murder, and many battles. It is claimed that it is haunted. You may hear strange noises while you wander its halls or see some strange sights. One of the most famous ghosts is the Piper. He was sent down to explore the tunnels under the castle hundreds of years ago. He was last heard halfway down the Royal Mile when the music suddenly stopped. He was never found, and it is said you can still hear him playing his pipes to this day. The castle has a few famous ghosts, but the most creepy has to be the headless drummer boy. It is claimed he first appeared in 1650. This is when Oliver Cromwell invaded Scotland and captured the castle. The headless drummer boy appears to warn when the castle is in danger. So if you see a headless drummer boy, I suggest you run. In 1645, half the city's population was wiped out by the Black Plague. To control the spread, anyone with symptoms were quarantined. In more extreme cases, homes were bricked up to prevent further infections. The victims were left to die with no way of escape. The most famous example in Scotland of this barbaric quarantine is Mary King's Close. During the reign of King James I, rules existed for beggars. No one between 14 and 70 were allowed to beg unless they could not walk. If you did not follow these rules and you were caught begging, they would burn your cheek and banish you from the city. It's also famous for the Mackenzie poltergeist, believed to be the benevolent spirit of Sir George Mackenzie. Sir George is famous for his persecution of the Covenanters in the 17th century. After the Battle of Bothwell Bridge in 1679, Mackenzie imprisoned hundreds of Covenanters in a field next to the kirkyard. The Covenanters were tortured, executed, and many died of starvation. This gave him the nickname Bloody Mackenzie. He passed away in 1691. George Mackenzie was buried in a black mausoleum in the kirkyard. The story goes that the poltergeist was released from his tomb after a homeless man broke in to seek shelter at night. While looking for valuables to sell, he fell into a chamber filled with bodies. This is apparently when the poltergeist was released. Ever since, there have been reports of bruises, scratches, and even bite marks. People have even passed out.